Okay, so thanks a lot, Nisha, for your introduction. As usual, I would like to start by telling you how this specific appointment came about. Some months ago, Nisha, we met, and she asked me if I would have considered to be a guest speaker of ARTCaffè myself, with her as a moderator. And well, back then I was already considering to leave Shanghai, and I thought this would have been a very nice way to at least to close the Shanghai chapter, which has been such an important chapter in my life. Okay, so then here we are. This event was first supposed to be offline in Shanghai in June. We ended up being here together in May, online, with me connecting already from Italy and Nisha connecting from Shanghai. As you all know, I will move to Seoul soon, after more than 7 years in Shanghai. And since I announced that I was moving to Korea, I've been keeping on receiving very nice messages about ARTCaffè and about how much ARTCaffè will be missed. That is why I would like to start today by telling you that this is not the last ARTCaffè just because I am moving to Seoul and I'm leaving Shanghai. Because through the years, I think we built up a community that really goes beyond the borders and beyond countries. And I will use now a concept that I took from one of our guest speakers, former guest speakers at ARTCaffè, friend Wang, Yefeng, who introduced me to this concept of in-betweenness or in-between. And I decided to extend, sorry, Frank, this concept to our own community, because I think we are an in-between community. ARTCaffè is an in-between community that doesn't depend on geographic parameters, and it can exist, it can thrive, no matter where its members are located. That is why ARTCaffè will keep on going wherever I will personally go or I will personally be based. So one of my goals today is to share with you what is next, so how I vision ARTCaffè for the future. But before getting there, since this September, ARTCaffè is turning already 10 years old, I thought that this would have been a nice chance also to review a bit what happened during the last 10 years. So first of all, briefly, I will share with you the story of ARTCaffè, and then we can look at the future of ARTCaffè. This story started when I moved from Beijing to Dalian after 2.5 amazing years in Beijing. And I began organizing it mainly for two reasons. One was a personal reason, and the other one, that's a big word, but it's true, it was a philosophical reason. The personal reason was I was absolutely desperate because I moved from a city that had so much to offer when it came to contemporary art to a city, Dalian, Dongbei, where the offer was really, really limited. So basically, ARTCaffè was a pretext to create a chance for those into art or who were curious about art to share their passion. And also it was, let's say, a new meeting point for the small expat community. Regarding the philosophical reason, I was interested in putting in touch with art those who were curious about it, but felt too shy just because they thought they lack of preparation or of a specific background. So my idea is that contemporary art, being about the time we live in, is for everyone. So you don't need a specific background to have a response in front of an artwork. You do need that. You do need to study and to do your homework when you have to, I don't know, write about it, you know, be a critic or an art critic or a curator, but you don't need to study to just go see an exhibition, enjoy it, and experience this response that comes from an artwork when you look at it. The very first meeting was about my collection and about the work of the German artist Christine Hohenstein, who was and is a great friend of mine, and she lived next door, which was really a great and lucky coincidence. We were 19 people. They were all friends of mine, and we came from, let's say, 11 different countries were represented during that meeting, which means that ARTCaffè was very multicultural since day zero. We talked about art, but of course also, let's say, food and mingling and getting together. They also did play a role. So I was saying this. So basically, the very first meeting was absolutely without a real structure. It lasted more than five hours. It was fun, of course. And during that event, Christine took this picture that you see here on the left. That's a wooden coaster. And that wooden coaster used to be in our kitchen in Italian, and it says caffè, which is an Italian word, caffè. And she added art on top of it, and she sent back that picture to me like this. So it was not meant to be a name for her. She was just playing with the image. But when I received it, I thought it was simply the perfect name for this event. Because first of all, it's caffè, it's not coffee, it's not cafe. So I think it can kind of point to my Italian roots. And also because, again, to me, it tells about the fact that it's really an informal event. And after that first event, the news spread. More and more people started joining, more and more artists started joining and using this platform to present their work and to talk about their work. Regarding let's say the guests, we went up to about 40 people as an average, 40 attendees as an average. And this is the very last picture of the last ARTCaffè in Dalian, where we were more than 60 people. Okay, so in 2015, I moved to Shanghai after 2.5 years and 10 events in Dalian, because in Dalian, ARTCaffè was not a monthly event. It was at the beginning once every 3 months, but anyway, so 10 events in Dalian. Back then, ARTCaffè was very much network-based, meaning we were all there, part of that same community. And at the beginning, I thought that was it, that ARTCaffè would have been over. At the beginning, I said, when I moved to Shanghai, I thought no one in Shanghai would have been interested in coming to my living room to talk about art, because Shanghai has so much to offer when it comes to art and art event. But again, by chance, and chance is really playing, as you can see, a huge role in this story. I met a photographer, Emmy, and you can see her here. Back then, she's a Dutch photographer. Back then, she was promoting her photographic book. And I said, why don't you come to my living room, you pick 3 pictures out of that book, those who are more insightful for you, and then you share the story behind. And this one is the only picture that I have of the first ARTCaffè in Shanghai. It's a dark picture, is uneven. I took it with my mobile phone. That's the only memory that I have of that very first event. Again, we were only, let's say, 15 people. They were all friends of mine. And we had 15 people from 9 different countries. So this multiculturality kept on going, of course, also in Shanghai. And from that moment on, I never stopped. ARTCaffè became a monthly event, but it kept on being free of charge, open to all. While in Dalian was less structured, in Shanghai was very, very structured from day zero. And as I mentioned, it kept on keeping this multicultural feature. We went again up to 40 attendees as an average. And every single time, I mean, I never had less than 15 different countries represented in that living room. I'm keeping on underlying this because because it's very important to me, I think that having attendees and also guest speakers from all over the world gives really a fantastic mix of points of view. And that is why, as Nisha mentioned at the very beginning, I always try to count how many countries are represented. At least I try to. And that's why I know that so far in 10 years, starting with 11 different countries, ARTCaffè has hosted people from 60 different countries so far. And this multicultural features applies, of course, to the attendees, but also to the guest speakers. Here you have in a glance the 64 guest speakers at ARTCaffè. They have been from 15 different countries. I'm guest speaker number 65 today. So, yes, Nisha?
68.
No, that's the number of the guest speakers, not of the events. 68 events, 65 guest speakers.
Continue.
So I love numbers. I'm still an engineer. I'm sorry for that. I still keep statistics and stuff. Okay, so we have the multicultural feature, and we also have the informality, because I'm also keeping on stressing the fact that ARTCaffè is informal. It takes place in a home, in a living room. And when the pandemic hit hard in 2020, I moved back to Italy. I got stuck here for months. And at the beginning, again, for the second time, I thought that ARTCaffè was over, because I was thinking, oh my God, with this new situation, who's coming? How can I keep on organizing an event in which we have to be together in a very crowded living room? I thought it would have been over. But then, and also because there is another reason, if I think of it, also because before then, I always resisted the idea to live stream ARTCaffè. I had people asking me, people asked me many times why I was not live streaming it, especially those who were living in Shanghai and who wanted to keep on following the events. And I did resist mainly for two reasons. One is because I wanted to have the people at home. And second, because I thought in a way that to create the particular vibe that I was looking for, we were supposed to share the same physical space. Anyway, one night I was here in Italy, and I thought, well, instead of just giving up, perhaps I should give it a try at least once, move it online once and see what happens. So this artist that you can see here in the screen is Sarah Fox. She's a New York-based artist, and she was supposed to be my first speaker in 2020. That night, I texted Enrico Polato, that you can see he's one of the attendees on the screen, the one on the bottom. So anyway, he's a dear friend of mine. He's the gallerist of Sarah in Shanghai. I texted him, and long story short, Sarah ended up to be my very first speaker online. She was a fantastic one. She even gave us a virtual tour in her studio in New York. And I was so galvanized by this experience that I kept on organizing online events throughout my the period of the pandemic while I was here in Italy. And I really did like every single event. And what I think, I mean, at least what I really did like in that moment was that I realized that it was possible for us to feel the same kind of vibe and the same kind of connection, even though we were not sharing the same physical space. Of course, as soon as I could, I moved it also back offline. In this event is the one with artist Yan Zhenzhong, and you can see on the left, you can see us in the living room, and on the right, us on the screen and in the virtual living room in Zoom. But I kept this hybrid online-offline format, and I turned into this monster that you can see here. I always say that I have to play DJ now with this event, because of course managing an event online and offline, it's a little bit more complicated than just sit on the floor and enjoy the moment. But I'm having fun, so fair enough, it's okay. This challenge, the pandemic challenge, ended up being a huge opportunity, I realized later on, from many different points of view. From the point of view of the guest speakers, because from that moment on, it was not necessarily that the guest speaker was based also in Shanghai, or, you know, because I could invite them online. And here we have Giovanni Ozzola and Erwin Olaf. Both of them, of course, they were not based in Shanghai. And secondly, on regarding the audience point of view, because it was possible also for those who had to leave Shanghai and relocate somewhere else, it was possible to join for them, but also for those who were never based in Shanghai. And speaking of which, I have to thank, I saw her name appearing in the list of the attendees today. I have to thank Flavia Jimenez, because she used to be a regular attendee in Shanghai, and she sent me the picture that you see on the right, the one with Erwin Olaf. She, during that event, she joined online. She joined from her room, and it was so nice to see how she was, you know, experiencing the event from her own living room. And another, let's say, positive consequence of all this was that also regarding contingencies. For instance, when the new crisis hit again in Shanghai, I never thought of stopping with ARTCaffè. Not even for 1 second. We simply adapted, because everything, let's say, a system was already there in place. And here I put 3 examples. One is from December 2021, and the other 2 are, one from March and the other one from April 2022. Sorry, December 2021 and then March and April 2022. In the first one, Guodong Lai, he was supposed to be in Shanghai with us. He was the guest speaker, but then his studio ended up being an area that was a risk area in Beijing. He got locked into his studio. We said, okay, no problem. You can connect online from your studio. And Nancy, the interpreter, she got stuck in her home. We did it anyway. Regarding the one in March 2022, the big lockdown in Shanghai hadn't started yet, but all of us, the guest speaker, Meng Yang, me, and the interpreter, we were all in lockdown in our apartments or houses. And the last one on your right, with Aldo Cibic as a guest speaker, that's an ARTCaffè that will make history. I'm kidding, but that was during the big lockdown in Shanghai. And so I told you that in the end, it was a good thing on all these different points of view. And last but not least, this hybrid online and offline format, if I go back to where I started, I think it really made the ARTCaffè this in-between community. Because in the end, the fact that I just left Shanghai and I'm going to Korea doesn't mean that ARTCaffè has to stop. Also doesn't mean that ARTCaffè ended in Shanghai and will restart in Seoul. It will simply keep on going. And now, and because as Nisha said, that's a quote that I really like. During one of our many preparation meetings, she said, in the end of a chapter is not the end of the book. So, of course, a very important chapter is closing, which is the one in Shanghai, but the book, the ARTCaffè book, keep on going. And now I would like to end my very short speech by sharing with you my vision for what's next for ARTCaffè. And this idea that I'm sharing now comes from a phone call that I received 2 months ago from a friend and a regular attendee of ARTCaffè. I don't know if she's with us, but we will check right after the presentation. Are you there, Sarah?
She is.
She is. Okay, perfect. So Sarah Laudani. By the way, just this morning I realized that she is in this chart. So in the Aldo Cibic chart on your right, just below me, there is Sarah. So Sarah gave me this call, and she said that she was moving to the US. And she said, in case, don't feel obliged, but in case, I just want you to know that I can be your referring point there in the US. So based on this idea, based on this call that I had with Sarah, this is how I would like ARTCaffè to look like in the future. Perfect, now it's done. Here it is. So it's not an airline company. It's not the graph of an airline company. I see ARTCaffè as a hub. Very, very simple in a way. A hub from which I will keep on, presenting artists that I selected or I invited, and keep on connecting those artists to the audience. And those who want to be part of this network, they can just raise their hand, let me know. They can host offline in their own living room the event, and the virtual living room in Zoom can be our connecting point. It's pretty, I think it is pretty easy and viable, and we can put it in, we can put that in place. And we, like this, we can keep on being this amazing in-between community, wherever I will personally be, wherever I will personally be based. That's it. Thank you.